I've been trying to add group movements to this engine. Previously my units would all pile together and do whatever job they were assigned, like digging for example. And now I've been trying to make it so they move more like they do in a nice RTS where the units won't move through each other, and they'll spread out and move as a group. One of the first things I added to make it a little easier was this little path indicator drawn in purple ahead of a guy wherever he's moving, so that you can see what decisions they're making as you click. So here's my first bit of group movement. If you select a few guys, rather than all piling together into one tile, they pick paths to adjacent tiles so that they'll fill in a space basically instead of all stacked together. The other thing I added for group movement was that when the units move into each other, they suffer a penalty for trying to move through each other. They just get slowed down a little bit. So to send somebody through a group is much slower than moving through open space, and this is going to have an effect on crowding like a hallway or something. So if I send everybody through this hallway here, they do pretty much okay going through it because they're all going the same direction. But if I were to have them try and move out while this other group moves in, it's going to be a mess. So here they go, and now it slows down. They're each bumping into each other, and it gets slower and slower, and then finally they all make it through each other, and everybody can get where they want to go. So this would motivate the player to dig out paths that are wide enough to accommodate traffic. Another thing that I've added is the concept of a larger unit, and that's what these red squares are. These are big fat units, and for example, he won't go through this path even though I'm clicking. Like he can go near it, he can even glitch into the wall a little bit, which I still have to fix, but it won't actually fit all the way through it. It has to be dug out wider. Here's my little math for deciding where a guy can move. It's based off their top corner, which is why it's a little weird. You might see there's 4s near a wall. That just means that a unit that's 4 big could stand against that wall. But to get through this hallway, only a unit that's one tile big can make it through. So I'm going to dig out this hall, and we'll see that this guy can go through it. We're just going to make it 2 units big, have everybody dig it out. As you can see, the concept of crowding and movement also has an influence on digging, especially if it's a small area and everyone's trying to get to the same job. So now if we look at the paths, we'll see that a unit that's 2 could make it through, and if we test it out, we'll see that, yeah, he's got no problem. This unit can move right on through it. The other thing that's interesting, as the path gets a little bigger, is even though these units won't intelligently use this space, if both instructed, let's say I were to send both groups through this hallway again, they won't, have one group go on the top path and the other group on the bottom path and move max speed. But what they will do is there'll be 2 tiles tall worth of space for the units to bump into each other. So as they try and go through it, they will move through it faster than they would if it was only 1 thick, which still accomplishes the same sort of end goal for me, which was letting them move faster if there's more space. They still go kind of slowly there, but it's a lot faster than if it were 1. I'll have them run through one more time. Slows down a little bit, but not as long, and through they go. Now if we were to widen it quite a bit, we'll make it 3 or 4, depending on how much I've actually selected here. Off they all go to dig it, and you see they're getting in each other's way even now. So I'm going to pull half of these over here and make them the left group and the right group. These guys should do this pretty quickly. I mean, they're definitely going to bump into each other still, just because they don't try and avoid each other. So they're only hung up on each other for about like a minute or so, or I mean a few seconds. So that's roughly what I wanted for movement. The other thing about the movement is when you select a lot of units, like grabbing them all, it's sort of hard to decide how exactly they should look when they finish. As it is now, I just have them sort of fill in space concentrically outwards from where it is they're trying to go. which I think I'm going to keep. I think that works out the best. I'm not going to do any sort of like unit formations or anything like that at this point. But it makes reaching some areas very difficult. Like if I wanted to shove all these guys into this small hallway, I think some of them are going to outright refuse to go because there's just not even any space. And I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that or change that or somehow try and have them fill in the space. Like because they could crowd around either side of this little gap here, and that would make, I guess, more sense. But either way, it's not going to be a good idea to send a whole bunch of units in one spot because of how the crowding works. And if they had to actually move past each other to do work, it would take forever for them to go through such a small hallway. The last thing I have added, and it's really bare bones, is a little bit of combat. You'll see here these 3 green bars. What these bars are they're just hit point bars for some units which are invisible, pretty much, because I messed up their graphics. They're supposed to have nice little O's like these guys. But in any case, you can see when they're highlighted. These units are on a different team than the red units, and if they get near each other, they'll try and fight. So we'll sacrifice one unit over here, see what happens when he runs on by. As he gets near the green units, they try and find a path to him. I'm having him run away now. He's down about 1 life or something. I see his hit point bar is really small. But if they catch him, which I'm going to let him do, they'll kill him, and then he'll turn into an X. And that's about all I have for combat so far. It's the base of a bunch of things. You'll see that I can try and tell the X to move. I guess he's a ghost now. He wants to go places, but he can't. So I'm going to run these guys into the main cluster, and you'll see that everybody will get all mad, and they'll end up fighting. And then they'll disappear because there's no graphic left for these guys. In any case, that's basic combat. It's got a lot to go, or there's a lot to do from there, but it's the gist of how it's going to go. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.